So do you think you will ever in your lifetime fake your own death?
I don't think so. It'd be a good way to see if people really care, wouldn't it?
It would. It would.
I just think it'd be a lot of trouble.
And there could be some circumstances that maybe if you really wanted to get away and never be found again.
Yeah, but
you just got fed up.
Yeah, I feel like Ireland's getting too it's not as
well. I mean, you'd have to have a big plan.
Yeah,
you couldn't just sort of stick an RIP notice up and
No,
you couldn't just
that doesn't work. No, that doesn't.
Home,
no, that doesn't work as far as we're about to tell.
Well,
no,
so tell, because I did hear the headlines from this story, and I thought this is Eimear Rabbitt all over.
Yeah,
I love these stories.
I love these stories just because I just think it's sort of. First of all, the planning behind it doesn't seem to be the most coordinated in the world, and it's also just a bit because we're reading these grim stories every day in, day out. So this is just not that it's not. She did commit a serious crime, but it's just a bit quirky. It's a bit more interesting. So anyway, this woman, Amy McAuley, so she's only 35 now. So this happened a couple of years ago, but she basically was due to stand a trial, like a circuit court trial, which is a serious trial for alleged deception and theft charges. She basically had altered documents and got a 10 grand loan from a bank and then attempted to get a 5 grand loan, and that was stopped. And she has previous for theft and fraud convictions. So basically the guards were contacted by this woman who said they were Amy McCauley's sister and said Amy's died, so the case can't go ahead. This is in 2023. She was supposed to face the trial. Sorry, still laughing. So there was an RIP notice up, and the RIP notice said she died on the 29th of December 26th of December 2022, peacefully, sadly missed by her loving parents, sisters, brothers. It doesn't actually name them. I'd say they're delighted with that. Yeah. But it says she reposing at Shankill funeral directors from 2 to 4, which is quite normal, but it didn't say what day.
Right.
And then it said the funeral was taking place, but it was posted after the funeral took place, so a week later on January 4th, which is a bit unusual.
So the RIP notice was posted after the funeral took place, supposedly.
Because usually it is to let people know this is what's happening. So yes, that happened. So guards were obviously suspicious anyway, and they looked into it, and they...
Why were they suspicious anyway, do you think? Because... history.
Well, I think so. Well, it doesn't say exactly why, but I suppose probably that, and also the fact that she also, because she's pleaded guilty to these charges as well, so she sent in forged documents, because obviously you have to register a death. So she sent in forged documents to Wexford. She's from Wexford. She's from Fethard and C in Wexford. She sent in forged documents to Wexford County Council and then got a death certificate back in both Irish and English spellings of her name. So I'd say something was...
So who purported to send the application?
Her
to
sister.
The death? Oh, the sister again.
Her sister, yeah.
I was going to say, you can't get your own death.
No. So, and I suppose, so that happened. And then when the investigation began, so they started the investigation in 2023. I suppose the guards, you do have to look into, if someone was facing trial, you probably need to check how they died. So I don't think it would have taken too much. I'd say that's what happened. It wouldn't take too much for them to realise. And then they looked into it. They found 3 RIP notices. Yeah. The one that I just looked at there, which talked about how she was... how she had her service at the cremation in Mount Jerome crematorium, and then the family flowers only please is what's requested on the document, and then donations to St. Vincent de Paul. So I suppose she was being charitable even though she was trying to evade the law. So that they noticed that one, but then there was also an RIP notice that said she died in France, and then there was another one added by a different undertaker who was actually her posing as an undertaker.
So she screwed up that way. If she just kept one and it looked a bit more normal, do you think maybe that a guard mightn't have gone out of his way or her way? Do you think maybe somebody might just accept that, or is there kind of there's probably something in place that they need the documentation for the courts? Do they? Yeah,
they need the documentation. I think this case, because it was a trial, there's probably certain procedure you have to follow. I think if it was a random person that did it, maybe they wouldn't look into it and maybe it wouldn't come to light. But I suppose someone is always going to, she had a child. I don't believe, from what now we haven't heard, I'm sure there's other stuff to come out, but from what we can tell, she didn't go into massive plans to leave the country or anything like that. So she probably would have been picked up at, she spotted at some point.
Ultimately posted an RIP notice.
Yeah, she posted an RDP notice. The sister contacted. Now, obviously, she must have went to some efforts, but she did have a child. So I think this was going to come out at some point that she wasn't dead. So
how did it all?
Yeah, so obviously the guards got suspicious. They were looking into it. And then she had contacted Wexford County Council with the fake death forms. Then she got a death certificate, both in Irish of her name and her English name. And then this is, I suppose, kind of probably in terms of the serious side of it, she contacted the company so the sister, so Amy McAuley's sister was really Amy McCauley, contacted her company that she worked for. And obviously there's death in service arrangements in certain companies. And she was waiting for a claim from that. And then she contacted them again and said that the money was needed to pay for surgery for dead Amy's child. And they paid $9,000. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so they made a goodwill payment of $9,000. So, there is actually victims to this crime. I know we were kind of laughing.
Does she have a sister called Winnie?
She has sisters based on the RIP notice, I believe, but I don't know if she has a sister called. Yeah. So I think she has a sister. I actually don't know that for sure. And she doesn't, obviously it wasn't the sister. The sister wasn't in any way involved. It was her doing it all.
These people are amazing, aren't they?
Yeah. No.
Intriguing.
They're really intriguing, but she just has it was just a very, complex case and a very sort of she has a very strange past.
A suspended sentence in 2015, which is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And she was in her 20s, 25.
Yeah, she stole money from another company.
110,000 or 11,000 from a former employee. That's a serious conviction.
Yeah, so she's been jailed for 3 years, and this is quite, as people know, our justice system isn't, the sentence is handed down. People always complain about them not being that strong, and she's a young mother, so you would generally have sympathy there, but she's been jailed for 3 years. So it just shows that, it wasn't taken lightly, because she had to plead guilty to so many different things, because she obviously had to plead guilty to the original theft and deception charges. And then she also pleaded guilty to using a false instrument by submitting a false debt notice to Wexford County Council, attempting to pervert the course of justice, forgery of a medical report, and then she also pleaded guilty to also forging a medical certificate at Perth Street Garda Station, attempted deception. So all of this kind of stuff happened, and then obviously possession of the proceeds of crime as well in 2023. That was probably relating to the other case. So she had a lot of stuff that she ended up having to admit to. So this all kind of came undone, and now she's in prison. And she's actually got expecting her second child, I should have said as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And she married in 2022.
Yeah, exactly.
Her lawyer said that she had been living a crazy, chaotic existence, but this is now stabilised. But you usually find that there are stories behind these individuals that are able to, do these kind of things, steal from employer, fraud people, trick people, and to go as far as to try and stage your own death. I mean, you're up there with a few really famous-y types. Yeah,
we were just talking about one there, a guy, he basically in Canada staged a fatal canoe accident. And he left the wife in the lurch, and basically organised, had an electric bike stashed somewhere. Obviously got himself out of the canoe, had the canoe let the canoe off into the middle of the water.
Was the wife in tow with him that they were claiming an insurance?
Not the one that I was looking at.
I remember another one that there was a kind of one of those sort of things.
Yeah, it was a guy from Wisconsin, and it was only then he turned back up in America, and he had an Asian woman with him, and then he was arrested and he admitted it.
He was obviously a lot more organised though.
Yeah, he was. It was an elaborate plan. Yeah.
He had the bike ready and he had a plan.
Yeah, he had a plan.
You recall your man Nicola Rossi, he was in the news. Actually, I think we did a podcast on him here at one point with one of the BBC producers who'd made a documentary about him. But he was under investigation for credit card fraud and faked his own death in 2020 and fled the US essentially to Scotland, but he built up this huge big story around who he was there. He caught the attention of the British press when he was arrested in some ward in a hospital in Glasgow during COVID. And he was wheeled out, not looking great, but alive nonetheless. But I mean, there was death notices and everything.
Oh no, that was a really elaborate one. And there was so many different elements to his story, different disguises and all this kind of thing. So you'd think that it can't just be people trying to screw the system. There must be some kind of something going on with them there.
There definitely is. I mean, any of these sort of fraudsters, and we've talked about a few of them. I did a podcast myself on one of them, but there's something about them that it's kind of like the chase of the fraud or something seems to be a buzz.
Yeah.
You know, in some cases now, I notice in Amy McAuley's case, actually the amounts of money are large amounts. Very large amounts of money. So, you know, that could be a different thing. It's the ones that kind of, you know, go to a really long and elaborate scams to end up with a couple of £100. You know, it's like nearly the thrill of the scam is more than the money.
Yeah, exactly.
But clearly in her case, and I've no doubt there's plenty of stories in the background there with her, and anybody who wants to contact us.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more coming out about her, because it's a strange one in that, like, you know, there was obviously, we always hear mitigation in court, you know, especially with the young mother, so there was a lot of talk about how her child has health difficulties. She had her own mental health difficulties. Her family are supporting her. She was afraid of going to the trial and going to court, and that's why she did it. And all of this kind of thing. But at the same time, like, she has serious convictions, like stealing $100,000 from a company is like, that
huge
could send someone under. And she got, like, you know, she got a 2-year jail sentence at that time, but 10 years was suspended for 10 years. So again, you know, she was let off there, and she continued to do it. So it's
usually about the money, isn't it? Then, or else if somebody is actually dead, pretending they're still alive, and we've seen a lot of cases where people will claim, you know, pensions or.
Yeah.
I mean, we had our pair who tried to walk the dead man
Carlo.
into the post office.
Oh my God,
to collect his 1 week of his pension.
Yeah.
But there's more elaborate ones that have gone on that people have for years claimed pensions.
Yeah, sure. Margaret Berg, and I'll never forget that. That's one of my, I don't want to say, like, make it sound like it's some kind of you know, it's some kind of entertainment, because it's people's lives, but that story will go down as one of my most memorable stories that we've worked on, because it was a leash woman, county leash woman, and she basically was claiming her father-in-law's dead father-in-law's social welfare for nearly 30 years. And it only came to light when I think I'm saying this wrong, what do they call it? They're basically, I don't.
Can you get the congratulations for hitting 100?
No, so it basically, they're people, I'm after pronouncing that wrong. They're basically people who look into how long someone's living. And he was going back through records, and he said, "Oh, this guy? This guy's
like a genealogist or something."
Yeah, a genealogist. Yeah, and he said, I think he's an amateur genealogist, so he's just doing research. And he said, "Oh, this guy is the oldest guy in Ireland, if this is right. He's 110." And he contacted the relevant department, and then they flagged to the guards. And when they went to the house, I think she'd avoided him a couple of times, and then she invited them in eventually and went upstairs and said, "There he is in the bed." And it was her husband in the bed. You know,
what, just sort of lying there with it?
Yeah, and he'd gotten a check for turning 100. Obviously, he wasn't alive, this man, and you know, all the money that they claim, I can't remember exactly. It was a lot of money that they got
hundreds
from the
of thousands, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot. I think it was well
over 30 years. It would be, well, at least 100 anyway.
Yeah, I think it was over 200,000. So, you know that, and she didn't actually. I think she got a small jail sentence, a very small jail sentence. But yeah,
and does she have to pay the money back?
They had to pay. It was 270,000, and she'd been claiming it so she was caught a couple of years ago, but he died in 1993, so she was claiming it for 28 years.
But there was no RIP.ie.
I think there had been, but I suppose it just hadn't been.
He hadn't been registered.
His death hadn't been registered. Yeah, so I think. Yeah, his death hadn't been registered, so it wasn't. I don't think it was like certain people would have known he was dead, but it wasn't publicly put out there. So she was told she had to. I think they did pay some of the money back, but not all of it. And she was told they had to return his centenarian coins that you get from the president. So you know. It's one of those ones. Yeah,
gutted with that.
I know.
Look, yeah, it comes down to money these cases, but that's an interesting one, and no doubt we're going to hear some more around that story and more background about Amy McCauley.
I think so, yeah. It's a very interesting story.
Thanks, Eimear.
Thanks, Nicola.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.